All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. I hope you're doing well. So, folks, today we're going to talk about Darrell Brooks, who might have the most awful personality in the world. And I was thinking, what's the best way to cover old Darrell? And I figure having a list of important things to talk about that are rooted in reality, but then keep interrupting myself trying to talk about the list with subject matter, jurisdiction. What lawful law? What lawful law? Grounds, coffee grounds. And before we talk about how stupid Darrell Brooks' legal strategies and thoughts are, I quickly want to make a couple predictions for the sentencing, which is, I'm pretty sure, tomorrow and the next day. And my first prediction is during the sentencing logistics hearing a week ago, they asked Darrell, hey, Darrell, how many people do you think are going to speak on your behalf at sentencing? And Darrell was like, 20 at least. And I'm guessing that that 20 number, we'll see if I'm right, is going to be a lot closer to a big fat zero. And of course, Darrell is going to blame that he needed more time to get all of the people that want to speak on his behalf together. But yeah. And my second prediction, because nothing is satisfying about this case, I don't think Darrell is tough enough to sit there and listen to the victim impact statements. And I think that he will get scared and not be able to handle it. And in his head, he'll think, I'm getting screwed over. And he'll try to bring up a subject matter, jurisdiction. And he'll force the judge, long before any witness is up there reading their impact statements, he'll force the judge to kick him out to the other courtroom, and that'll give him some space, and I think he'll probably just look down, or I could be wrong, maybe I'm wrong. Someone with any even shred of decency would think, you know what, I threw a little narcissistic rage temper tantrum like a little child, and drove my car through a Christmas parade and ruined countless families' lives forever. Literally the least I could do is sit here and let the family members say something to me and maybe have an ounce of closure. But like I said, I don't think Darrell's tough enough to be able to handle that. And so I'm sure, like always, he'll throw a little temper tantrum. He'll act like he's getting screwed over. Somehow, I just know I'm getting screwed over. And he will get ejected and give himself some space. Again, we'll see if I'm right. All right, since the whole thing is finally coming to an end in the next couple days and Darrell will be sentenced, he was found guilty on all 76 charges. Sorry, Derry. And I've never seen verdicts take that long to read. I fell asleep and took a nap and walked the dog and cooked a meal and came back, and the judge wasn't even halfway done reading the verdicts. So that was truly something. But let's go all the way back and just talk about how horrific the whole thing is. So this was never is this the guy trial, because the evidence was overwhelming. It's his car. He is on video getting into the domestic dispute. It flings him into the narcissistic rage temper tantrum that he is capable of doing. He gets in the car. There's a bunch of footage of him driving his car in the parade, and then there's that one really good picture where he's got the gray sweatshirt up, hood, but you can see his face totally clear as he's driving through the parade. Again, it's his car, or it's his mom's car, but I think as of that day, it was his car. And then he gets out after he does the unspeakable, takes the hoodie off, throws it in a little child outdoor play thing, which they got the sweatshirt, which has his DNA on it. Then he goes to that really nice guy's house. That part of the trial, man, most people are really solid, decent people. And so he goes to that one really nice guy's house. That guy is like, oh, you're cold. Come on in. Makes him a sandwich, gives him a coat. This is the community that Darrell just has no, I'm a little bit mad, so I'm going to drive my car right where I want it. No one's going to tell me, Darrell Brooks. He makes this face in all of his stupid rap songs. Yeah, I'm Darrell. Darrell, what are you doing? You look like, you know what Darrell looks like to me is, remember that 90s cartoon, The Rugrats on Nickelodeon, where they had the small bodies and then the big baby head? That's what he kept reminding me of standing at his defense table. Just a big Rugrat baby head of a man. And so then Darrell, so he tells the really nice guy that makes him a sandwich and gives him a coat, I'm waiting for an Uber, I'm freezing. That nice guy's like, come on in, yeah, do your thing. And then Darrell is on the phone arguing with his mom. That's when the nice guy was like, hey, what's going on here? That doesn't sound like Uber. And then the cops start driving all around. The nice guy that made him a sandwich realizes, all right, I don't think this guy's waiting for an Uber. I'm pretty sure, waves down the police. They arrest Darrell. Darrell's like, what'd I do? They bring him in. There's short clips of the interrogation. It's not worth analyzing. It's the same Darrell Brooks vortex to hell nonsense. There's no even talking to people that have that type of personality. Darrell will never say, you know what, that's a decent point. All right, you got me on that one. That's why I could barely watch this trial, because I like a nice sparring. All right, a good argument wins. You got me on that one, but I got this, I got this rebuttal. That's pretty solid. But with Darrell, it's just, he'll never accept that he got beat in anything. In his head, I am Darrell Brooks. I'm a genius. I can win any argument. I'll just attack the base of the argument. If you win on that, then I'll just attack the base of that argument. And it's a good lesson, because most people are probably going to work or have to be around someone like Darrell at some point. And it's just a good lesson you're not going to win, or you're not, if you sit there on your way to work and go, this is what I'm going to say, this will get them, this is a good argument, how can you argue with this? And then you present it to them thinking, how can this lose? And they just spiral down, they attack the base, and then you're thinking, well, what happened? So the best thing to do is, if you're around a person like that, slowly get up. Don't make a show that you're leaving. Don't tell them that you don't want to talk to them anymore, but just slowly get up and walk away, slowly. And then as you get farther away, start sprinting away. And someone like Darrell needs someone like a parasite to attach to for his nightmare personality to work. So you just can't be that person. But you don't want to tell them that you're not going to be that person anymore. You just have to, okay, yeah, all right, I'm going to go over here forever. And then do the best you can to get away. My poor wife had to work with someone not malignantly selfish and narcissistic like Darrell, but pretty bad. And we would have like war room strategies at night, because my wife was going crazy, and you just have to just disappear. You can't take their love, you can't take their affection when they want to be nice, because they want to build you up. Like you see Darrell do that with the judge. He's kind of laughing with their subject matter jurisdiction, judge. We got a rapport, right? We've come a long way, judge. Like he hits you with the friendly smile, funny, yeah. And then once you're like, all right, you know what? Maybe he is all right. The last 10 minutes, you showed a little bit of humanity. So you know what? Maybe. And then all of a sudden, you just get smacked across the face with another subject matter jurisdiction, or I'm not Darrell Brooks, I object to be calling that name. And then you're right back to go, how did I get tricked back into being in the spiral with this person? So like I said, don't tell them you're never gonna talk to them again. Don't make a show out of it, because that's what they want. Just slowly and peacefully, whether it's in the dead of night, just disappear, because then eventually they'll have to pick a new person or something, but it just can't be you. That's the biggest lesson with watching Darrell's nightmare personality. But anyway, so they arrest him. He's going, what'd I do? What'd I do? They bring him into the interrogation. Same as the trial. They can't even really get, even though everything they're saying is making perfect sense, he just goes, whoa, 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 are you lying to me? You just lied to me. It's like, yeah, Darrell, they lied to you. You just ran your car. They lied to you. Yes, they did. And then the media covered this one totally bizarre. Like the New York Times, they always say like that the big story was below the fold on the front page. They use that saying, below the fold. Not only was this story where this guy ran his car through a Christmas parade, not only was it below the fold, it was below the fold on page 22. And everybody described it as an SUV accident. Just your classic SUV accident. And I think a lot of people didn't even really know this one until it started to get to the trial, and everyone's like, oh my God, this guy is awful. Okay, so he had what's funny too about how his whole strategy is, yeah, I'm not Darrell Brooks. I object to be called that name because I'm not Darrell Brooks. One of two, I think he had the keys in his car. That's what they said in the interrogation. I can't remember if that came up during the trial, but he had his ID, Darrell Brooks, with his picture. The one thing in your pocket is the ID, Darrell Brooks. And he's like, I'm not Darrell Brooks. That's not me. That argument is right in the same category as, it wasn't me, it was space aliens. And so that, like, the three legal strategies that he got stuck on, they were all very stupid. I'm not Darrell Brooks. It's like, well, you are, and I don't know. So why do you keep saying that? I'm not Darrell Brooks. It's like, all right, well, you can keep saying that, but it's not going to do anything, Darrell. It's barely going to even delay. And so he gets to trial. He decides to represent himself, which for Darrell's personality, this is it, right? This is the most notorious that he's ever going to be. This is the most center of attention he's ever going to be. And that's what he wants, just to be total center of attention. This is the most in control he's ever going to be. Has to have the most nightmarish controlling personality I've ever seen. This is the most in control that he'll ever be, because what's after this? It's going to be the rest of his life in a concrete fart box, sitting next to a toilet, having another man tell him what to do at every second of the day, zero control. And for a man like Darrell, that is everything. And so Darrell representing himself was not a big risk, or he has nothing to lose. That you can't be in any more trouble or be any more of a horrible spot in life than Darrell Brooks after, the evidence. There's no way he's getting out of it. There's no way he's going to go subject matter jurisdiction. I drove my car down Main Street and it happens to be no one's jurisdiction. I threaded the line of the no jurisdiction, and he was trying to do the whole, there's no plaintiff in this case. The state of Wisconsin isn't here. That would have been funny if they would have had a really sharp DA or somebody just represent. All right, you want Wisconsin to be there, and put them in a costume, a big costume of the shape of Wisconsin with just their head like in the little circle. All right, the state of Wisconsin is here. Hit it, Darrell, with your questioning. And the whole subject matter jurisdiction, it's so dumb that, and the judge gave such a clear ruling that made so much sense. And for him to just keep getting stuck on that and thinking it's anything, it's nothing. It's nothing, Darrell. You can keep saying it, but just know you can disrupt, you can delay, you can make a scene, but just know we're going to inch closer and closer to the sentencing where the judge, with a big, giant smile on her face and in her heart, I mean, I'm sure she'll keep it professional, but she is going to sentence the hell out of old Darrell Brooks. And then it's sitting next to the toilet while other men get to tell you what to do. Sorry, Darrell, no control. If I was one of the victim reading the impact statements, that would be my strategy to really get Darrell, because he is such a control freak that being in the prison for the rest of his life, having no control of any part of his day, is going to be extremely hard on him. And he's going to probably be one of those people that floods his cell with poop just because he wants to make everybody's life a living hell. And so I would say, Darrell, I get to wake up, I get to put some breakfast on the skillet and hear it sizzle. I get to go and have a barbecue by the lake. I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want, and you never get to ever again. Think about that, Darrell. I would go that route, because I think that is really, that's why he had to represent himself, is because he thinks that, all right, I'm Darrell, I'm in control, and yeah, this is the last bit of control. And I think that's why I wanted to delay it so bad, is because he's, in his head, he's like, I'm a star right now. They're talking about me on Reddit. I have supporters. And this is, in a way, I think he really enjoyed being the center of attention, obviously. And so we get to, the state did their case first. And it was really hard for me to watch, because he could be at his most annoying and disruptive and delay everything, because the state is creating the structure of the whole thing, trying to paint their picture, and he would just object after everything. Objection. And this is where he would have his comically terrible objections, or the state would use an objection and he would learn it. Oh, that's another one I can use, but he wouldn't know how to use it. One of the worst ones he had is one guy that he ran over and severely broke his leg and ruined a bunch of ligaments, and for what? And they asked him, did you break your leg? And the guy was like, yeah. And he goes, objection, hearsay. It's like, Darrell, that's not... You don't understand it, Darrell. But he would object after everything the court would do. And like I said earlier, one of the most annoying things for me is a good argument never wins with Darrell. He doesn't ever say, okay, that wins, but maybe I'll try to come at this angle. Once you start losing or it starts going bad, then he just turns petulant, would get kicked out. That would take forever. So during the state's case, I would maybe make it an hour or two a day, and then I'd have to turn it off. When it started getting more satisfying for me is, okay, so the state's done. They slogged through. They got it done. They didn't, because he's goading everybody and daring everybody to lose their temper. He can act however he wants. It doesn't matter. Being held in contempt doesn't matter. Delaying it another month doesn't matter. He can't get in any more trouble than he already is. So he has nothing to lose. But everybody else, the state has a lot to lose, which is if you lose your temper and you say something, you know what, Darrell? and you speak your mind or you lose your cool in the moment, then he could get a mistrial or he could get another trial, and he's so difficult and it's so maddening and it just takes so long that doing the whole thing again is not an option. So that's why the judge, even though the judge was amazing. Even though I was getting a little bit frustrated at the judge in the moment, like, shut him down. Don't let him. It's kind of a genius to it, because it's like, we are going to just get through this slowly but surely, inch by inch, temper tantrum after temper tantrum, and then once it's in the books, it's going to be in the books, and there's not going to be anything Darrell can do. He started off with the old sovereign citizen, which, those are always hilarious, because it's like, I'm not a citizen in your system, but I do demand all of the rights a citizen does, please. I kept thinking too, how many societies throughout history and even right now would let Darrell do this? They would, where he could disrupt and be disrespectful to all of these families after driving his car through the whole thing. So many societies would say, oh, well, okay, this is the guy, and bring him around the shed and shoot him and be like, well, that's done. Let's hit a Mexican restaurant, shall we? Glad that's over. And the subject matter jurisdiction, he truly got stuck on that to a point where it was beyond absurd. After he was found guilty on all 76 charges at just the logistics sentencing hearing, like what date should we do the sentencing, he was still going, Judge, can we talk about subject matter jurisdiction? No, Darrell, we can't. It's over. But I thought it became a lot more satisfying when he started doing his case, because he'd bring his witness up and he would do the classic thing like, was there a name on your subpoena? And the people are like, yeah. And he was like, okay. And it just wasn't anything. It wasn't a legal argument. And then he would peter out asking his witness questions, and then the state, since he didn't even come close to making a good point or argument or anything, the state wouldn't do any cross, no questions. And Darrell got really angry that one time, and he's going, because all of a sudden it starts going quick. He could be extremely disruptive and brutally delay while the state is inching along through their case. But once their case was done, all right, Darrell, it's up to you, it started going fast because he didn't have much. And I think he wanted the state to cross-examine for a long time, and then he could get back into the objection, relevance, grounds. But the state's like, nah, he didn't even come close to make any type of argument whatsoever, so just no questioning. And he threw that little fit where he was like, I can see the state isn't asking any follow-up questions, so I could see what's happening here. And it's like, Darrell, what's happening here is you're about to sit next to a toilet for the rest of your life because you are awful. And so he starts to get, as his case starts to go really fast, he kind of bounced around from, I'm a sovereign citizen. Well, that doesn't work at all. Okay, well, I'm not Darrell Brooks. I object to be calling that name, except you definitely are Darrell. And then he tried to do, the SUV went forward on its own, and he bounced back and forth between like, I'm not the guy, but then sometimes he'd be like, well, I panicked, and how could this happen? And there was no coherent through line to any of his defense, but what is he going to say? The evidence is overwhelming. And as I felt his case, it was more watchable, at least for me, because it was funny just to be like, all right, Darrell, there we go. One more down, one click closer to the sentencing. I just was rubbing my hands going, the sentencing is coming. You You can throw a fit now. You can drag your feet. You can hold up your objection sign. You can put the objection sign in your pants. That was a moment. He's sitting there with his objection sign in his pants. There was something, again, just so childlike. There was something so, like the mom felt like a principal to, it was like, all right, get him out of here. Make sure he's got his objection sign. And then he improv'd both of his opening statement and his closing statement. He just improvised, which was wild to watch. And his main point in the closing statement was two things. His main argument was, the state, they keep saying the same thing over again. It's just on repeat. And they go, yeah, that's what you do in a court hearing, in a trial. They're just going to keep saying the evidence against you. And so he's saying, they just keep repeating, I'm off the cuff, therefore I should be let off. And then he did the old Sarah Boone, okay, this happened, it was awful, but one thing I know, it was not intentional. And it's just like Sarah, how she was saying, yeah, it wasn't intentional that I zippered up George in the suitcase and I walked up the stairs. But it's like, you can't, it has to be intentional. You can't, it takes a lot of things to get a car to go forward and do all of that. And you did that. And that there's no way to not intentionally do that. So that went nowhere. All 76, like I said, and that brings us up to tomorrow is the sentencing or the victim impact statements. It's going to go all day tomorrow, and then I think spill into the next day. And then I'm sure the judge just can't wait because she really went through hell with this one, just dealing with Darrell. And you could tell it was not easy. She would be standing up, just looked like she was about to pull her hair out, but she got through it. You should give her credit for that. But I think that's all I got. Let's see how tomorrow goes. It's good to be back, people. I'll give you guys an update with all of why I was gone soon. I didn't want to do it on this one and waste time, but I love you all. It's so good to be back. Why? Stamina.